Well, let's just hope Levi can control himself in this one. Let's get down to business. Hey guys, Merry Christmas and welcome to the last Whiskey Business of the year. I'm Evan.
I'm Levi.
And we are going out with a bang with one of Levi's absolute favourites. Levi, what have you brought?
So this is the 16-year-old Lagavulin. I'm going to punch through the details just really quickly.
Yep.
I just really want to drink it. It's a single malt from the Islay region of Scotland. Mm-hmm. The Lagavulin distillery's got a number of different expressions, but they're really known for particularly peaty, smoky flavours, characterised by a couple of different age profiles, as well as a lot of the Scottish whiskies are. So we're obviously talking about the 16-year-old. There's also an 8-year-old. For any fans out there of Parks and Rec, there is currently a Nick Offerman specific distillers edition. And they do have a couple of other distillers.
Or fan of woodworking in general.
Or just whiskey as well,
Yeah,
I believe,
yeah.
from what we understand. This is a peated whiskey, and that's what it's renowned for being. So it's got a ppm of about 92, which makes it quite high in the ppm ratings. We did the Octomore a couple of weeks ago now. That was an eye-watering 200...
A couple of months ago now.
That was an eye-watering 208, I think, from memory, ppm. A couple of weeks ago, we did the Ben Nevis, which was a 35 ppm. The ppm scale, as we've talked about previously, really is just a guide. It doesn't mean a whole lot. 43% alcohol content. Let's get a drink shot.
You're so excited.
It just smells so good.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
It is really super, super smoky on the nose, but quite well balanced too.
There's still some other flavours coming through.
Yep.
Couldn't tell you what they are.
Yeah, it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong on smoke and peat.
Oh,
it's delicious. I'll do a bit and then you can do a bit. We've probably got some slightly different thoughts. To me, things become synonymous with one another. So if I think of Iron Man now, I think of Robert Downey Jr. And if I think of whiskey, I think of Lagavulin, and I think of their 16-year-old. That to me is just really simple, really honest, really pure, exactly what you expect a whiskey to taste like. And it's done better than any other whiskey that I think I've had. And I think that that's absolutely perfect. That's what I want.
I think it's definitely an amazing whiskey in that it is incredibly peaty, like absolutely peaty. But it is balanced. And there definitely is a moment where you get hit with the peat and then it tapers off, and then you're just left with a bit of a tingly smokiness in your mouth, which is actually a really nice feeling. And you can imagine it having that while you're eating some snacks and sort of stuff like that, and that would be really, really nice. I'm trying to pick up on any other flavors. It's hard. There's definitely something else in there. I can't tell you what it is.
I've always thought, obviously, the smoke and the peat are the main flavour profiles. That's most of what you get. There's a little bit of pepper in there. There's a little bit of charring, and probably just a tiny hint of caramelisation and sweetness. That's what I get. Certainly no fruit.
No, definitely no fruit.
Even the caramelisation, and when I talk about the sweetness, it's not that sort of traditional sweetness that that you get from something like a Starward Twofold or one of those sorts of things. It almost is just the sort of burnt caramel that you would imagine is probably left on the inside of the barrels.
Which is where you get that lovely, lovely rich colour.
Yep, it is quite dark. Look, I could wax lyrical about Lagavulin for a very, very long time, as I have to you on many an occasion when we've had a couple of glasses of it. I just think that, you think of certain things when you think of whiskey and when you think of Scotch. And when I think of Scotch and specifically Scottish expressions, I think that is exactly what people expect.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that that's the best possible version of it as well.
I would agree. To a point.
Well, here's the thing, I expected there to be probably a little bit more pushback from you. Anyway, with the water,
it brings down the peat a little bit. Definitely opens up a little bit more of that caramel flavour. Even on the first go round, as much as there's a lot of peat, there wasn't a lot of heat to it.
No.
It really is, and what did you say it was, 43%?
Yep.
Yeah, really balances out. You're not really getting hit in the face with the heat, but it's definitely there. You can definitely taste it. It's just the water really rounds out that peat and just makes it a lot easier to drink, I have to say.
Yep.
But it's not like it was bad to drink when it was neat. Like, it was still really, really nicely balanced and sort of stuff.
So this is an interesting thing, right? I think with the ppm profile, and we've talked about how that is only really a guide, you shouldn't take too much stock in it.
Yeah.
That being so high on that ppm scale, we've got Floki back.
Floki's back.
Enjoy. Well,
he's a really big fan of Lagavulin.
Yeah, he's heard me talk about it enough times. But put that sort of on the scale, that the Octomore at 208, this is a 98, and the Ben Nevis at a 35, I think, from memory.
Yeah.
The Octomore obviously is off the scale. That's a whole different thing.
Well, that's meant to be the peatiest whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they were going for.
Yeah.
This obviously is not doing that. It's a peaty whiskey that's bold and quite rounded, but has a good full flavour profile. If you compare this to the Ben Nevis, which is a 35 from memory, I think that is easy to drink.
No, I agree.
And I don't necessarily think that the peat flavour of it is any more pronounced than it was on the Ben Nevis. It's just done differently.
It is done differently, a bit more rounded, a bit more tailored to that finish and sort of stuff like that, which is really, really good. Like, it's... I understand why it's your favourite. I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but I definitely understand, like, why you would love that one so much.
Yeah, I think it really just, for me, it comes down to you drink different whiskies in different moods and different times. That I could drink at any time of day for anything whatsoever. And I think that to me is what people are expecting a whiskey to taste like.
Yeah, with ice. Absolutely with ice.
Well, I do always drink it on the rocks, as you will know. So
that is absolutely gorgeous on ice. Like, having it that little bit cooler.
Yeah, it pulls the heat back a little bit.
Yeah. But you're still getting that smoky front. You're still getting that lovely colour and sort of stuff like that.
I think also makes it possibly a little bit more syrupy, a little bit more viscous, which is a little odd. You expect that it goes the other way.
We had that in another one, but I can't remember which one it was.
I can't remember which one either, but we did. That's probably the other thing with the Lagavulin. I think that the flavour of it, being so smoky, so peaty, works really well with how viscous it is. It's not super thick. It's not lingering around. But it's just got the right amount of sort of body when it's in your mouth that you sort of retain all of that smokiness and all of that peatiness and all of that flavour. It works really, really well. Yeah, that works really well with the ice. I thought there'd be more critique.
I'm sorry,
I'm sure that you'd have some stuff to say about this.
I really do like it. Yeah. It's like, I'm not adverse to peaty whiskies, but I don't like when they overtake flavour or overtake enjoyment, and that hasn't done either. Like, I'm still really enjoying it. I enjoy the peatiness of it. I enjoy the way it rounds itself out. I enjoy that little hint of caramel and sort of stuff like that, and I'm really enjoying, like, having some ice in the glass. And I think you're right if we compare it to the peaty whiskies we've done, which has really only been Octomore and Ben Nevis. Like, it is worlds apart from those two, where you've got, Ben Nevis was supposed to be a low peated one, but God, that thing hit you in the face, but wasn't really balanced out. Whereas the Octomore was just...
Here's your peat.
Here's your peat, all of it. Here's all of the peat.
All of it. Just
all of the peat.
All the peat in the world.
Whereas this is just doing such a nice job of showing you what a peated whiskey is capable of when they also want to make a good whiskey.
Yep.
And I think that is where you get as well. It has that lovely flavour, but it's not being taken away by the peat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting. Well, question for you then as well. This is obviously a peated whiskey. We've talked a lot about people that will like peaty whiskies versus non-peaty whiskies in the different regions, Scotland, all the rest of it. If you were saying to someone that was like, I'd like to try a peaty whiskey, and they hadn't had it before, would that be a reasonable introduction for them? Because it is very strong.
It is very strong on peat. I have a feeling this is not a beginner's whiskey.
Sure.
Like, for me, I think this is something that you do need to be able to appreciate a bit. I think
this could scare someone off.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. I think if you were going to go peaty, you would go something a little bit lower, like maybe an Ardbeg or maybe not a Freud. I think Ardbeg is probably the best way to go.
Yep.
Or even the peated Paul John expressions that we've discussed, the Brilliance we reviewed ages and ages ago. That had a really nice peat to it. It gives you that start of that smoky flavour, but still gives you other flavours to get to know as well. But it's definitely a lovely drop of whiskey and sort of stuff like that. So I mean, I think we know what you're going to review it, but let's go through our process.
Go through the motions.
How much is a bottle of that?
Firstly, a bottle of that is $119. So
that's not horrible.
No, it's pretty good. I think that if you're talking about a 16-year-old single malt from Scotland for $120,
especially from the Islay region,
you've got to take all of that into account, and it's a very, very reasonable price point. We're saying that in the context of it's still $120 for a bottle, which is not cheap, and there's no getting around that. But you're not going to find too many other single malts, certainly not aged expression single malts from Scotland, especially Islay, that are going to be in that sort of region. So it's hard to compare it to too much.
It is hard to compare it to other Islay regions, but we can compare it to other whiskies around that price point. And then it comes down to how much do you like peat versus the other stuff, and that's where it's going to get tough as well.
This one does sit in sort of a very distinct spot, because peated whiskies, I think it'd be fair to say, across the board generally are quite pricey. Because they know that it's sort of a specialty market. People that like peated whiskies will pay good money.
And not everywhere can get peated malt.
Get
peat to make peated malt.
As we found out just the other day, there's only one distillery in Australia that can do peated whiskies, and it's the Lark Distillery, and that is because Bill Lark went and got himself a mining license. Because you need a miner's license to get peat, which we didn't know. So I didn't know that there were. I didn't know that there was that requirement. I certainly thought that there were a couple of Australian distilleries doing peated whiskies, and we were wrong. So there you go. We're always finding new things out. Look, I'm giving it a 10 because it's my favourite whiskey with an absolute bullet. I think that for $120 for a bottle and $24-ish for a glass, I suppose.
I think I have to look at it in a couple of ways. Like, one, if I looked at it just pricing around that price point, it's probably not going to score very high. But if I look at pricing around that price point as a peated whiskey, then there's nothing else that really compares with it. Everything that will compare with it flavour-wise are going to be more expensive.
Substantially more expensive.
And I think for that reason alone, I have to give it an 8.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. As I said, I think it's a good whiskey.
And as you said, you don't dislike peated whiskies, but it's probably not what you're going to run to at the shelf when you get into Dan's or
not
into
at
a
all.
bottle shop.
So I don't hate it. I would gladly have a peated whiskey, just probably not the Octomore.
Yeah, fair enough. And you know that I love peated whiskies. It's kind of what I go for as my staple for a whiskey. I think that is the best version of it. So that is basically the best whiskey that I've had, in my opinion. So that's why it gets a 10 from me.
So we finished at a 9 overall. I'm not bad.
Thrilled with that. Yeah. I think that's a wonderful result for my boy Lagavulin 16.
I think if you're just starting out on whiskey, don't try this. If you want to try a glass, yes, just be aware that if you're not used to drinking something with that level of smoky flavour, it is going to be very, very off-putting.
It is an acquired taste, and it is the sort of thing that you will try a bunch of other whiskies and you'll figure out what you like, and if you do start to like peat, you'll work into it. And
but if you've done some exploring of peaty whiskies, if you've had some Ardbeg, if you've had some Lefroy, if you've had some...
Kaolila?
That one's not as readily available, but similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if you've had any of those and you kind of like them, then absolutely go find a glass of the Lagavulin 16 and give it a go.
Yep.
In terms of buying a bottle, once again, if you are a diehard peat fan like this gentleman here, then it is absolutely worth the investment, because there's not much better around that price point, and anything that is better, you're going to be paying a hell of a lot more for.
Yeah, way more. $120 for a fantastically good peated whiskey, even if you don't, like me, think that it's the best one there is still a really, really good price point.
But in terms of serving, if you are trying it, definitely chuck an ice cube in there, a couple of drops of water, help disperse that heat a bit. Having it neat is nice still, though. So if you're used to your peated whiskies, then having this neat, definitely a good way to go.
That's probably a good point. If you're working your way up through peated whiskies, you'd probably say try most of them for the first time on the rocks, and then when you get to a point, you can try other stuff. But especially for that one, the first time, make sure that you try it on the rocks, because it'll just round it off and make it a little bit easier to drink. But 9. I'm thrilled. This is great.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that's it for this episode and for 2019. We've had a lot of fun. We've gotten a decent amount of episodes out since we started mid-year, and we're glad to kind of have you guys along for the journey. We will be back in 2020, starting from January 13th is when we'll have our next episode up. We're not going to give any teasers because at this point,
We don't know what we're doing yet.
We really don't know what we're doing.
We've got some time to plan and figure it out.
We'll talk about that after January 1st, probably. But thank you so much for being on this journey with us. Please like, comment, subscribe. We're hoping to get some great comments so we know what direction to go in next year, so that you guys get to see us doing what you want to do. But other than that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
And make sure to keep your Christmas business whiskey.
That was terrible.
It was amazing.
That was
Don't
really
be like
terrible.
that. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.